Hey, what's up, Isolation Nation? Hope everyone had a fantastic week in lockdown. I thought I'd jump on and invite a special guest on the show today. Obviously, there's many different communities affected by COVID-19, and one of those sections of society are students. So I thought, who better to come online with me and discuss that than the president of OUSA himself, Jack Manning. How are you, mate?
I'm good, bro. How are you doing? That was
Yeah.
a good intro.
Oh, after a few guests on the show, you sort of get practice, you get into the role of things, and you sort of learn what to say, when to say it.
Very good. I mean, if this is episode 14, I can't wait to see episode 1400. They'll be killer by then.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'll last that long. It's the stamina in the works. For those people who don't know you out there, just give your quick five, what you're all about, your background, how you came to be here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so I'm Jack Manning. I'm the president at the Otago University Students Association, and I'm first and foremost, I'm a student, really. I am a recent graduate from the University of Otago. I studied computer science and marketing. I got through about 2.5 years of my computer science degree, was enjoying it, but found it wasn't the thing that was for me, and just really fell into my marketing minor. So I decided to go all the way into that. And then during an exchange in my third year, I decided to do one of the most foolish things I've ever done and run for OUSA whilst on exchange. I just put everything I could into learning how to use social media to run campaigns and get attention, and it was successful. So I served on the OUSA Exec last year as a colleges officer, representing college residents and their issues. And then this year, I'm working as the OUSA president, which is keeping me busy, you could say, especially in the current environment that we're all in.
Yeah, I bet this is the last thing you expected when you went for the role.
Yeah, no, fully, absolutely. Yeah, I came into this year really sort of because of course I'd worked quite closely with last year's president Jase, and I'd seen the stuff that he'd had to go through. He had, having to go through the March 15th attacks and a very tragic student death that we had on campus, Sophia Cristani. And I just thought I couldn't possibly have challenges that could even remotely equate to those. And obviously, without trying to compare, one tragedy to another, it's been a heck of a year, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. For people who don't know what OUSA is about, just give a lowdown on what OUSA does for the students in Otago.
Yeah, I can happily do that. Yeah, because I feel like that's something that also a lot of people, including students at Otago, won't fully recognize, because I didn't really recognize until my third year what OUSA really even was. OUSA, first and foremost, is a student union. So every student at the University of Otago, the second they join, they are a member of OUSA, and we are there as a representative body. So we have our elected representatives, the OUSA Exec, who sit on university committees and working groups, and the university council, that's myself. And we advocate for their issues and advocate for their interests. So we do that to the university. We do that on a national scale. We do that on a local government scale. We just really are first and foremost advocates for students. And you can see that as well in the services that we provide, from student support to the clubs and societies building, which is there to make sure that students can, be engaged in different clubs and different interests while they're at university. We have lots of different arms to our association. So we also have the Student Magazine Critic, the radio station Radio 1 91 FM. We're quite a big umbrella, really. Yeah,
a lot going on, especially in the current climate. What was the university doing to adapt to COVID-19 off the back of everything that's going on, and how are students coping?
Yeah, I mean, I guess a way I would broadly put it now, because it's a very multifaceted answer, really, because the university is handling everything from student hardship to academic changes, the prospect of digital exams. There's so much to it. But I guess the thing that sort of really ties it all together is that university since the Prime Minister's announcement that we're moving to alert level 4, they have really stepped up and set quite a good standard for student representation and consultation. OUSA and the student exec have been very at the center of a lot of the decision-making process as of the last couple of weeks. And that's been really refreshing. It's been really great to be able to feed into a lot of what they're doing. So the university is doing a lot. They're doing so much, and we're there as much as we can to make sure actually what they're doing best addresses the issues that students have.
Yeah, can you give an example of some of those decisions that OUSA have been a part of?
Yeah, sure. So just recently, just over the last couple of weeks, talk about the student hardship and student financial support that the university can provide has started up. And there are a few of us on the OUSA exec that are represented on those committees that discern actually what sort of student hardship can we provide. How can we best look after postgraduate students, writing their theses, or who are research intensive that can't be in the lab doing their work right now? How do we look after students in residential colleges that might run into struggles with paying their fees to live there? And also, how can we support students in flats, that have the extra cost of heating now that they're spending more time at their flats, or cooking more? How can we support them in cooking more meals and stuff like that? So there's some stuff that we're doing on the OUSA side, but in the university, we're helping a lot with figure out how exactly we provide financial hardship support for students.
Yeah, because financial hardship is, I guess, top of a student's mind, even in a normal year.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Have you been seeing a lot of?
Yeah, you go, man.
Have you seen a lot of applications, or more so than previous years, around financial hardship and help in that regard?
So OUSA has a hardship fund, which we run through our student support department, and that hardship fund is for providing students with one-off emergency financial support. So that's usually things that are up to $250, maybe because of circumstances out of their control, they can't afford rent, or maybe they've lost their job and suddenly have all these expenses coming in. So we have a hardship fund that people can apply for, and we've seen a lot of signups. We saw quite a few early in the year, not even COVID-19 related, to do with significant delays with StudyLink applications, and now with COVID-19 and us right in the middle of the alert level debacle, it's just shot up significantly. But we're happy to do it because this is students who genuinely need the support, and it's a avenue for them to get it.
So how do they find that funding, or how do they apply? Just jump on the OUSA website?
Yeah, so if you go to ousa.org.nz/support, there's a lot of info there, but we've actually moved our entire student support department online. So you can actually get to them at ousasupporthub.org.nz, and they have pretty much an entire portal to access all of the student support services that are available, including the hardship fund, including talking to advocates. So we've moved it all there, and I'd really encourage people to give it a look.
For sure. Is there other initiatives that you guys have that people may not know about, especially regarding this COVID-19 response?
Yeah, we've got lots of little things that we try to organize here and there. We have a full we have a recreation program that we've fully curated on our ousa.org.nz website that covers everything from public speaking to baking to even like Pilates and yoga and stuff like that. So if people are finding themselves bored in lockdown and trying to find something to do, they can always go and have a look on there. We also just have lots of the stuff that we're just mainly trying to keep it as business as usual as possible. We have lots of services that we're still providing. Critics still putting out content. Radio 1 is still broadcasting from home. We're also working quite closely with the Student Volunteer Army, which have started to base down here in Dunedin. They're working to support those more at risk in the community by helping with grocery runs, so people who aren't as at risk can go to the supermarket and pick up their stuff for them. So we're really happy to be working alongside with them on that, because I think it's a very worthy venture and a really important thing to be doing right now.
Nate, yeah, I think that a lot of people, when they think of students, they think of just party animals that jump out into the street. I know that party on St. Paddy's Day got a bit of a bad rep, so it's awesome to see students stepping up in times like these. It's important, and students want to help for the most part, I think.
Fully, honestly, yeah. And I feel like, I mean, you've touched on something really powerful there, which is that students often get this sort of generalization placed on them, from the day they enter university. They're often considered, reckless party animals and stuff like that. Everything we try to do is really, we're trying to push back against that. We're trying to show that students, are incredibly empathetic and, supportive members of our community. They want to help out and volunteer to help others. And honestly, also, there are a lot of misconceptions around students that we try to push back on. One that is right on top of my head right now that is very prevalent is the expectation that's placed on students to go into debt to afford the cost of living. Often students are expected to take out loans that will be with them for years and years after the time at university, just to get by. And we don't expect that from any other group in society. So quite a lot of what we're dealing with right now is financial insecurity. And that's something that we're trying to really address, and hopefully address in a way that doesn't put students into further debt, because that is a very dangerous downward spiral that we don't want students going on.
Yeah, right. Do you have any solutions that you're working on in the background that we might hear of?
So NZUSA, which is like the National Union for Student Associations. So OUSA is working with them and all the other student associations they've partnered with, which is over 40 across the country, representing about 400,000 students. So it's a really massive, really proud to be part of this work. We're working with them on a campaign, really pushing for a universal student allowance. So going into this year, being firstly, right in the middle of a crazy worldwide pandemic, but also with this being an election year, we think it's really important that student issues are actually best reflected on parties' manifestos. So on their policy platforms. So we're trying to push politicians and advocates in the tertiary sector to really get behind a universal student allowance, because what we're trying to achieve at the end of the day is a financial security for students that doesn't have them going into debt, that doesn't it's a financial security that doesn't require financial insecurity later in their life, because a very significant thing that I think that could actually do, especially in this time, is drive people away from tertiary education, which, if we are looking at a potentially coming recession, we need to be actually making sure we do have a educated workforce and stuff like that. So we're trying to be part of the solution as well, to make sure that the country's economy is actually supported, coming out of this pandemic.
Yeah, I guess there'll be cash will be short, right, for a lot of different industries, and people will be trying to figure out what the best strategy is for what's to come. We know that there's tough times ahead. What that looks like and how bad it is, I guess, it's unsure at the moment. But there's definitely scope for more initiatives that help students along. I know that in places, especially up north at like Auckland and Wellington, it's almost becoming impossible to study full time without having a substantial job on the side, and that obviously impacts people's mental health. Their studies sometimes slip under the way because they have work commitments. So yeah, it's quite a stressful time in young people's lives when they're trying to get on their feet.
No, absolutely. And I mean, especially when you look at cities, like Wellington and Auckland, where the cost of living is so high. I mean, we think we have it bad down here in Dunedin, and it can be downright extortionate at times. But, across the country, high living costs are a significant issue for students. And, that can have flow-on effects to students' mental health, to their academic performance. Really, honestly, financial insecurity is really like an enabler for other issues in student lives. And honestly, students aren't asking for much. They're just asking for enough to get by. So that's exactly what we're asking for, is just enough to actually make sure students can get by during this time.
Yeah, we've touched on quite an important topic, but we're heading into like this lockdown period has highlighted another model that university could operate under, right? Because a lot of the practical things have been put to the side for now, and so I wonder if this could help move it to an online system per se, and that would bring the overheads down. It would mean that there's a lot less costs associated with it. It might make it a bit cheaper for everyone. Obviously, that university culture takes a hit. It's not a zero-sum game. There's a lot of complex factors. But do you think this could be the new normal for a while, or this could be a solution to a financial problem for the students? Or do you think it will go back to business as usual once this is all rolled over?
I mean, you've brought up something super interesting there, which is, this lockdown really has, in so many instances, just in my job, it's shown how suddenly things that were perceived to be impossible to do from home suddenly can be done from home. There's no doubt that the University of Otago really has its roots in being a very residential university, and it gets a lot of its inherent advantage as a tertiary education from that. A lot of people come down to Otago for the lifestyle that comes from living on and around campus. It's a really awesome, vibrant place to live. But this has been a paradigm shift. Suddenly thousands of students have gone home. Suddenly the streets of Dunedin are dead silent on a Saturday night. So it really has made people sort of reevaluate actually what goes into a tertiary education. And it's something that, we're trying to be mindful of at OUSA. We're trying to go through this and see what solutions are being put in place or can be put in place that aren't just applicable during a pandemic, that actually can be done. It should be business as usual, to be honest. Like an example that I think of is lecture recordings. We have a lot of papers at the University of Otago that aren't recorded, and that can lead to serious inequity issues for students who maybe can't get to class or have clashing commitments and stuff like that. So the transition that is being imposed upon us now to move online is really showing actually how possible it is actually for this to just be normal. And I don't see any reason why, when we move out of lockdown and move to a more business as usual setting, we can't continue to perform quite strong in a digital setting as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's just shifted everyone's thinking with what is possible in the future, like you highlighted. Just shifting sideways for a moment, you're definitely working closely with the university, but are there other organisations that you're working closer with that you wouldn't normally in this time?
Yeah, I mean, probably the one to talk about there is the Student Volunteer Army. They're working really well, and setting up down here. They're setting up all over the country, and they really, I mean, they have so much of their infrastructure set up to just land in a city and start operating. That often we're just trying to help out whenever we can, and the stuff that they're doing is really incredible. Student Volunteer Army is a really big one. I'd honestly even say I'd even just put a lot of attention on the university actually during this time, because student representation is a given at the University of Otago. In a lot of cases, we sit on lots of boards and committees and stuff like that. But I'd probably wager to say that this is the closest that an OUSA exec has worked with the university, just in terms of hours in the day. They're in the same room or the same Zoom call. That has been in a while, and that's simply come out of necessity. It's had to be like that. because things are changing every single day. You know, we're going to get the Prime Minister's announcement later today about whether we are continuing in Alert Level 4 or shifting to Alert Level 3. Stuff like that, you know, we can be in communication with the university the next day about. It's, you know, I would really hope that, you know, next year and the year after, when COVID-19 becomes more of a distant memory, that the standard is maintained for student representation. I won't be around to make sure that happens, but I certainly hope others are that can really make sure that standard is maintained.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to always have different sides of the story coming together to collaborate. I think that's what's quite cool with what's happened in New Zealand, especially. People have
Yeah.
sort of put politics to the side and they've really focused on the issue and making sure that the community at large can benefit as much as possible.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Do you, since you are involved in those meetings, do you have any insight of what the university might do at level 3, level 2, level 1, how it will start de-escalating the situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, probably the most immediate one I can talk to is level 3, because most of those details are actually hashed out already. A lot of the stuff that was already communicated to students a few days ago was that teaching would resume online, would continue online, because travels will be difficult, especially if you're outside of the Otago region. The impetus is to continue operating as an online university, so that's what Otago is going to be doing. But you know, this certainly does make it a little bit easier for certain operations to continue in Alert Level 3. So on a case-by-case basis, research students and those working on dissertations who need to get into the lab to be working on their research can communicate with the university about saying, hey, it's essential that I'm on campus doing this, and you know, I can maintain social distancing and good practices and stuff like that. So this just basically opens up the university a little bit more, and lets things operate a little bit more normally. Yeah,
I suppose case by case basis. What's your personal prediction on whether the lockdown will get extended this afternoon or whether we'll be able to come out in 2 days' time to level 3?
Oh gosh, I'm not a betting man because I always bet wrong.
Yeah.
No, I honestly, I have no idea. Yeah, I mean, we might at the very least be able to see the date that we move to Alert Level 3, but I don't know. If anything, I just hope that whatever this announcement says today, it actually just provides a little bit of reassurance to students. You know, they'll just be able to hear this at 4 p.m. and know definitively actually
what
their plans should be. Yeah, exactly. What's going on? Will I be staying at home for how long? You know, and I'm not entirely sure actually what the response is going to be from the Prime Minister at 4, but fingers crossed it's a little bit closer to Alert Level 3 as soon as possible, if it's appropriate.
Yeah. A lot of courses have been able to rejuggle how they operate. Moving online, they can put progress tests to the side for one moment if it's not open book, and every course is slightly different. But do you have any idea on how they might be managing exams?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So there is a lot of investigation going on right now about how to handle exams. People are thinking about doing digital exams. We're considering what the implications that would be for getting invigilators or not requiring invigilators, whether they could be open book or closed book. A lot of this is being handled at a paper by paper level.
Okay.
So I couldn't exactly answer, you know, this is what Mark 305 is doing, and this is what Physics 101 is doing. I'm not entirely sure. But what I can say though is that whatever the outcome looks like, the middle name that the university is going to be having during this all is flexibility, or at least that's what we're going to be encouraging them to have. Because even if there was like digital exams, for example, you know, that will work great for many people, and you know, for a lot of people that will be fine. But some people will certainly run into like equity issues around IT access. Students that don't have a good enough computer or don't have reliable access to the internet. So the important thing will be, for whatever the outcome is, to just be very flexible and to make sure that students aren't at a disadvantage because of circumstances out of their control.
Yeah, for sure. And there's also, in the back of my mind, those health science students or those law students that have competitive degrees after their first year. This is their first semester at uni. They're probably thinking, what the hell is going on? A lot of them had just, I guess, had a taste of university for a month or so, and then all this went down. How is the university managing those types of scenarios?
Like the professional courses. I mean, the last thing they need is more stress added on. So yeah, just like discussions around digital exams or whatever exact form examination will take. For the professional courses, it's important that that is homogenous. Because a lot of these courses are competitive entry, it is important to make sure actually that everyone is on the same footing and no one is disadvantaged. And kept out of a professional course that they deserve to be in because of this pandemic. So in terms of for the professional courses, I mean, that is being explicitly considered by the university, in terms of how they'll create a solution for those examinations. And you can expect whatever that is to be, across the board and something that actually will apply to all those students.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know of any differences in how the different universities are operating at the moment, or is pretty set in stone? This is what Auckland Uni's doing. This is what Vic Uni's doing. This is what Otago Uni's doing. Is it all the same, or are there slight differences? And it depends on top management to decide those things.
Yeah. I mean, along the way, there's plenty of minor differences between each institution. I probably can't speak too well to the actual differences because I've been less focused on the going-ons of other universities. Sure. But I mean, we probably saw that a little bit more actually before we went into lockdown. A lot of the other campuses are quite proactive, or actually, were better equipped to move online straight away. A few other universities made the announcement they would be moving online before the lockdown was announced. There are differences there in the early days. Nowadays, I'm less aware of these because I'm not keeping an eye on the other campuses. But for the most part, things seem to be operating in a more or less similar way because everyone's in the same environment of having to work online.
Yeah, no drama. Yeah, I guess everywhere is in the same boat. They're all in lockdown. Exactly. Where we're all trying to get through. Do you think most students will be able to return for semester 2, or it's too early to tell at this stage?
Well, it's really for certain parts of it. It is too easy. It is too early to tell. It's too early to tell exactly what alert level we might be in. I wouldn't even begin to guess that one. So at least my hope is that we will be able to return at least partially to on-campus teaching, that we are able to provide appropriate social distancing and hygiene measures on campus to make sure that people don't, shouldn't feel concerned about coming onto campus, even if they are an at-risk individual. That's actually something that is important to be mindful of, I think, as we move forward, is that even if we do move down the alert levels and the actual risk does reduce of contracting or even just of contracting COVID-19, for a lot of students, particularly those at risk, the perceived risk is just too high. They wouldn't they won't be going to campus already, and this was seen in the early days before we went into lockdown. Plenty of students already may stop going to campus because for them it's just not worth the risk. So it's important that we make sure that as much as possible we are still operating in a digital landscape as well, so that no student's disadvantaged if they decide that the risk for them is too high to go on campus.
Long term, what safety measures do you think will be in place around campus?
Well, we can. I may expect certain social distancing measures in terms of in the libraries. we might see the libraries more ready, more prepared to be able to do stuff like provide study spaces that are socially distant. That might mean reduced capacity in the libraries, but it does mean that students who don't want to be paying for the extra heating at their flat, want a bit more reliable internet, or just want to get away from the flat they've been in for several weeks, will be able to go somewhere and get a bit of study done. So I know the university is looking into study spaces they will be able to provide during alert level 3 and 2. We hopefully should be able to see that, doing well and, operating in a way that is sustainable throughout the alert levels. It's important to tell. It's difficult to tell this early exactly what that stuff will look like, but the sooner that we can get students feeling safe going back on campus, and the sooner we can get them allowed to go on campus, because we've all been taking part in doing our job in this lockdown, the better.
Yeah, and a major group of students that will be affected by this is international students.
Yeah.
I guess personal predictions is that the international student enrollment rate will drop down, but is that what's being talked about by the university, or being thought about by OUSA, and how can OUSA support international students that are enrolled?
Yeah. So this is a conversation that we're actively having. Yeah, just last night we were talking on the NZUSA national group chat about how actually do we best support students, particularly for international students, being in New Zealand and studying at these tertiary institutions can be incredibly expensive. It's a massive cost barrier for them, particularly if they have to live in another country that that isn't their home country. There are lots of implications for international students during this. Our international student rep, Arena Izal, who's on the exec with me, has been working really hard, and I've also been getting lots of correspondence from the New Zealand International Student Association, which is the national representative body for international students. So I'll really leave it to them to sort of best make the argument for the issues and the solutions that face international students. But they're an incredible national body, and their national president, Sabrina, is an Otago alumni and a former member of the OUSA exec, and they're all doing incredible work trying to support international students. And it's a really weird time. It's a really strange time for international students in this lockdown, because just like for all of us, we're stuck at home. But for them also, they're stuck at home in a country that, may not be home to them, maybe it is, but for plenty of them, this is where they are for study, and it can be quite stressful, quite worrying, being in another country and not being able to, see your family in person and stuff like that. So it's on our mind all the time,
Yeah, and every circumstance will change with them, like depending on where they've come from. That we're thinking of what their home country is going through, whether they'll be able to return next year if they go home for the holidays, what's going on at a government level with policy, with international transport. So it's a huge deal for them, right?
Yeah.
So just to summarize everything, is there any lasting thoughts as we close everything down and head on into getting on with student life, and whether we're going to come out of this for next semester, or what your predictions are long term?
Yeah, in terms of closing remarks, the main thing I would say to students, is that they just aren't alone, So, we've all, a lot has been asked of everyone in the country and of students the last couple of weeks, and it's been a very, very turbulent time, and a lot of people feeling quite a bit of uncertainty. But the main thing is that, students, they may feel alone at times, but it's important they know they're not. OUSA is here for them, all the way through the university career. They can reach out to us at any time. if it's, they need support, if they need tips on their mental well-being, on how to be a better flatmate, on how to, maintain relationships during this lockdown. We are here for all of that. And if, any issues they run into, academic or otherwise, we can help out. Yeah. So the thing I would just say to students is just reach out. They can always reach out to us. They can email me directly, president@ousa.org.nz. They can go on our website. They can just get in touch with us, because it is literally our job to help students. Yeah. And we take pride in doing it. And we hope to have as many students reaching out to us as possible so we can help them.
Awesome, Jack. On a lighter note, what's on the post-isolation bucket list for you?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know, man. Yeah, I've really been thinking about, I've sort of been thinking about, how can I best in a socially responsible way catch up with all my mates again, a lot of coffee dates that I have to have, lots of people I need to catch up with again. So I've got a big list of people there. In terms of my studies, I don't have any studies, so I don't have any assignments or anything that I'll need to be catching up on or anything like that. But honestly, for me, it'll just be keep working at OUSA. Hopefully be able to get a bit more stuff from like KFC and stuff, because I've really missed it.
Yeah, the other guests that I've interviewed, they've always said the KFC thing as well. So there's quite a theme here. So all these people,
I'm seeing a lot of people coalescing around KFC right now. That's the one they really miss.
Yeah, let's hope the announcements to go level 3 happen soon enough.
Yeah,
rush to the drive-through. All right, Jack.
That'll be one thing I look forward to. Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us and sharing your insights. Obviously, there's a lot of students who appreciate what you and the team does. So thank you. And we'll catch you shortly.
Cheers, Jase.
Cheers, mate. Peace.
Peace.